Hello and welcome to Magic Moments. Today I will be speaking with Warren Barnett, CEO of Generic Energy. Mr. Barnett asked for this interview because he wanted to express a different opinion on peak oil and climate change. How are you, Mr. Barnett?
Please, call me Warren.
Okay, Warren, you're on record as saying you believe peak oil and climate change are all part of a left-wing agenda to form one world socialist government. Is that correct?
Well, my position is not quite that extreme, but as CEO of a large energy corporation I have access to information on future oil supplies, which seem to be in good shape. And I see no evidence of a human fingerprint on climate change.
No evidence of human involvement in CO2 increases then, even though we have now been burning carbon-based fuels for 150 years.
Oh no, you see, carbon dioxide increases and decreases in the atmosphere in natural cycles, depending on the amount of volcanic activity.
So you believe we're in a natural cycle right now? One that has CO2 spiking quicker than shown by any evidence of previous rises?
Yes. And see what you just said. Previous rises. Any rise in carbon dioxide before the Industrial Revolution must have been natural.
Okay, but I also said the current spike is much faster than previous rises.
How can you know that?
Well, scientists put a lot of effort into analyzing core samples and tree rings. Their conclusions are pretty convincing.
Okay, but human CO2 is a tiny percentage of carbon dioxide emissions.
Yes, but the natural cycle adds and removes CO2 to keep a balance. Humans add extra CO2 without removing any.
Well, if you say so, but I don't see any firm connection with the natural climatic variations we are experiencing today. Those are far more likely to be a result of solar variance.
But Mr. Barnett, monitoring of solar intensity has been going on for more than 30 years. It's true that some changes have been recorded, but these are mostly small and nowhere near powerful enough to induce the climate change we are now seeing.
But how well established is this greenhouse effect?
Greenhouse effect theory is over 100 years old. The first predictions of anthropogenic global warming came in 1896.
Well, anyway, the warming trend we saw during the 1990s is no big deal. Temperatures are actually lower than they were in the medieval warm period.
I'm sorry, but that is just factually incorrect. Temperatures are currently the highest they've been in the last 1,000 years.
No, they're not. During Roman times, they used to be able to grow grapes in England.
They still can.
But Greenland used to be lush and green.
That's been shown to be a myth, a real estate story made up by the Vikings to get settlers to go there. It's a bit like describing a derelict house as a renovator's dream. A quick reality check shows that Greenland's ice cap is hundreds of thousands of years old and covers over 80% of the island. How different could it have been just 1,000 years ago?
Oh. But global warming stopped in 1998. There's been no warming since then.
That's not true either. That lie was based on choosing 1998 as a start point, and ignoring any data after 2004. 1998 was the year of the strongest El Niño of the century. Choosing that year as a starting point, and inferring centuries of trend from a 7-year sample is a classic cherry pick.
Okay then. Why are we seeing more snow these last few years?
Well, warming leads to increased evaporation and precipitation, which falls as increased snow in winter, and will continue to do so, until temperatures are so high, that the precipitation no longer freezes.
So it has to do with water vapor then? Scientists say water vapor is a far more powerful greenhouse gas than CO2, and humans don't put water vapor into the atmosphere.
Yes, water vapor is a more important greenhouse gas than CO2, but water vapor doesn't change systematically with time, unless CO2 is changing and initiating a warming that sets into motion the surface and atmospheric processes that allow water vapor to increase. So CO2 changes are the root cause of whatever water vapor feedback occurs.
Well, you're a bit of a smarty, aren't you? None of what you're saying means anything anyway, because you're not a climate scientist.
And nor are you.
And even climate scientists can't agree. There's no consensus on global warming.
Mr. Barnett, 97% of climate scientists agree that climate change is a real phenomenon, and that humans are the major factor influencing the change. Any disagreements are in the fine details.
Maybe, but they've been wrong before. In the 1970s, scientists were predicting an ice age.
Actually, the majority of predictions then were in favor of a warming planet. The Ice Age predictions came from two main camps. The first were those concerned about unprecedented high levels of aerosols in the atmosphere, which were being observed to have a cooling effect. The second were those who discovered an anomaly in the Earth's orbit, which seems to be the driver for the ice ages and mini-ice ages. Earth was found to be at a stage of the orbit where temperature should have been cooling, perhaps to ice age conditions. The fact that we're seeing warming instead of cooling in the face of these two factors is actually more alarming.
Well, climate models share all the same assumptions, so of course they all agree. And every year, fewer scientists dare speak out against the findings of the IPCC, thanks to the pressure to conform.
But just a second ago you argued that there was no consensus. Now you're saying there is, but that's because the modeling has a common flaw? I suppose that fewer and fewer scientists disagreeing could be seen as consistent with widespread and insidious suppression of ideas, but you know, it is also consistent with having the right answer. Mr. Barnett, will you ever accept that pumping tons of carbon into our atmosphere, carbon that was previously locked away in fossil fuels, might be having an effect on the climate?
No, it just doesn't make sense. Global warming is a hoax perpetrated by environmental extremists and liberals who want an excuse for more regulation in the world government.
I see. Well, I don't think we'll get much further on that topic, and we have run over time. I'd like to meet with you again and ask you about the future of oil.
That would be my pleasure. That's my topic of expertise.
This has been Majic Moments. Join me again tomorrow to continue this discussion with Warren Barnett. In the meantime, take care of our planet. Ciao.